Indiana Jones, Indiana It's a podcast about Indiana Jones. Every movie, 1 minute at a time. Indiana Jones Minute.
Welcome back to the Indiana Jones Minute. This is the podcast where we get to the heart of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, 1 minute at a time. I'm Tom Taylor.
I'm Pete Mummert.
I'm Gerald Christopher Keeping It Porter.
And we are joined almost as always by our old friend, the fourth Beatle. I don't know.
Yeah.
Professor Christy Porter.
Yeah.
Welcome back,
Hey.
Christy. We are here to discuss minute 113 of Temple of Doom, which begins with Willie declining further adventures with Dr. Jones and ends with Shorty covering his eyes so he doesn't have to watch this movie anymore. I mean,
No.
I don't know what he's doing.
Well, you go to a dark place in these last
I'm
minutes,
having a
Tom.
really tough time, and I hope I don't come off like just a bitter crank. But I'm black and blue from the last few minutes of this movie. They're pulling out all their stupid punches.
You're harsh in my good feelings here.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to.
I
I don't mean to
love
do that
it.
for you. I don't mean to do that for anybody. I was behind this movie 100% when we were going to do it. You and I were trying to pull Jer out of the ditch. He's like, "Oh,
You
come on!
got stuck,
I only
yeah.
want to do Raiders."
It was like I used you as the branch to pull him out of the quicksand, and then he
Yeah.
pulled you in.
Yeah. See.
You guys paint an interesting
terrible.
tableau.
But no, I do. I love this movie. I love this movie. It's got a special place in my heart. But these last few minutes are stupid. But let's discuss.
Well,
shall
then I
we?
got a question for you, Tom. Not right now,
All right.
but, in a moment.
In a moment. All right. Well, first we have No More Adventures with You, Dr. Jones, which is pretty, formal here. And of course, Indy is he follows that, by Indy says sweetheart to Willie, which is I guess an affectionate thing. And what's going on, Pete?
What I think is going on, and then maybe I'll throw it out to Christy, who might be more of an expert. I think she has some real problems with intimacy. Because every time Indy expresses some interest in her demeanor immediately changes, and she becomes really closed off and angry and pushes him away. And she even wipes her chin off after his little, chin
She
chuck
sure
here.
does. That's,
yeah.
that's hard to miss.
Yeah, I'd toss this over to you, Christy.
Gosh, yeah, all right. So, well, first I got to disagree. Before we get to that question, Pete, I got to disagree with Jer. I don't think it's affectionate, and I don't think that it's formal that she's calling him Dr. Jones. I think she's just ticked off. It's not the same thing as formal, right?
Right.
But now I got to think about it. Does she always push Indiana away? Let me think about Pete's question there.
Well, this mirrors the moment in the bedrooms and
In the
back in the
bedroom.
hotel. Yeah.
Yeah, but she was actually interested in him, don't you think?
Well, she was until he showed a lot of interest in return, and then when
Hey.
he started really expressing interest, she got angry, just like
It's
this.
the exact same thing. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
if I did like this movie, just that right there, stupid head game, now I don't like it.
Wait, why does that make you dislike it?
Well, stupid Willie can't get behind intimacy. Come on. Put yourself together.
How hard could it be?
How hard could it be? What an interesting idea. Well, I don't know. So, I don't know. She does a pretty quick reversal there. Maybe it's the whip.
Maybe.
Yeah, well, I mean, she does. To be fair, when she rebuffed Indy's advances, it was that one line that he said. He said, "I don't know. I'll tell you in the morning." Remember
Right.
that? And she was
Yeah.
like, "Why you pig-headed?"
Which is really just
Whatever.
him
I
saying,
don't
I mean, not to rehash that whole scene again, but that's just him saying, like, yes, what we both think is about to happen is about to happen. I'm all
Right.
in. Let's do it. Let's, birds
Okay.
do it, bees do it. And he does the exact same thing here. And
Yeah.
she has the exact same reaction.
Birds go to Delhi, bees go to Delhi.
I'm not going to have you explain that one to me, Tom. I just, no. No. Back away.
Well, you think his so Chris, or you think his sweetheart is just disgusting?
Yes.
Yeah.
I find it mildly less disgusting than everything else he's been calling her for most of the movie. He hasn't called her anything like that in a while in the movie, but
Yeah,
the beginning of the movie is all doll and
That's
sweetheart
true, yeah.
and skirt and dame.
Well,
and, you know.
skirt.
I may have made that one up.
So all right. So so I had a question about that too. So what do you think he meant? What was he thinking when he called her sweetheart?
I sort of think I don't know what his feelings are towards her, if there are feelings with a capital F or anything, but, I think he's like, hey, guy, a girl, rode to Delhi, we almost had a thing back in Pankot, I think he's affectionate enough. I don't know if this is an affectionate moment. I think it's more of like a come on or something, but, he's saying, hey, now everything's calmed down. Let's get back to basics.
Well, it sounds a little bit like a little bit of Han Solo banter here.
Because he calls her sweetheart.
Yeah, sweetheart.
Yeah.
And then he's super sarcastic after all the fun we've had together. It's a very Han Solo kind of sarcasm.
So what do you think he's thinking, Pete?
Yeah, I think he thinks she's just going to go along with the program and they're going to head off to Delhi together. I don't know if he has any long-term interest in her. I mean, which apparently he doesn't.
It certainly seems like a foregone conclusion that they're going to go to Delhi together.
Yeah.
Like they're both on their way to Delhi, so why wouldn't they
Yeah,
go
I don't
together?
understand what other option would exist other than
Yeah.
them both going to Delhi together.
Right.
See, I'm thinking, especially from yesterday's minute, he's just given up the rock, and she asks about the fortune and glory, and he says anything can happen. I think right now, Willie is Indy's fortune and glory.
Oh.
That's what's going on, and that's why he says anything can happen. Fortune and glory might not just come in the shape of a Chachapoyan idol, but it might have some fertility in there.
So this reminds me of that Bond stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So is this like a Bond moment for him?
Oh, like that he's just coming on to the available female?
White woman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. He's expecting her, I guess, to melt in his arms, and
which she did earlier.
Yeah,
she's already done that. He knows that
Yeah.
she's into him.
Yeah,
and not that it doesn't mean that she has to give in to him and stuff. Like she can change her mind. She'd be like, I'll take a chance.
Is she just playing hard to get right here? Is that all this is? She's playing hard to get.
No, I think Christy nailed it. That she's got some sort of deep-seated thing that hasn't even been touched on in this movie, where she cannot, she's just going to recoil as soon as anything gets close. Oh, Pete said that? I'm sorry,
That was
Pete.
Pete's idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how she winds up in Shanghai. Maybe she's in Missouri and everything's fine, and maybe she was engaged or something, or, screw it. Maybe she went on, 2 dates with some guy. It was like, hey, how about a 3rd date? What are you doing next Friday? And she was like, bam, Shanghai. Tom, I thought of you here because Willie mentions ripping your heart out. When she's kind of going through the litany of things that happened. Had to eat snake, ripping your heart out. And I go, aha, wait a minute. That's bogus.
Right.
Nobody ripped your heart out, Willie.
Right.
What are we talking about? And
Right.
Chris, I don't know, you weren't here for this minute, but Tom, that's one of the biggest things in this movie that blew me away is they actually, when they go and Willie's in the cage, at the Temple of Doom altar sacrifice thing, they pull Indy over and no one rips her heart out.
Yeah. They just drop it.
Yeah. What the hell's going on, Chris? Did you know that?
That they didn't rip her heart out? Yes, I knew that.
Well, they didn't even try.
Yeah, they kind of lost interest.
They did. That's kind of how it reads. They lost interest.
Yeah. Well, no. Just lower her down, they said.
Yeah.
And I actually thought it was sort of a modesty thing. So, obviously.
What do you
don't
mean?
think there's a modesty thing? What do you mean? What do you mean? They could have ripped her heart out, but they're like, nah, let's not do that. That would be kind of, forward.
Unseemly,
kind of inappropriate,
first date.
when we could just, so we could just, lower her down and burn her up a little cinder. Because actually, how is that going to work?
You make it sound so gross.
How is that actually going to work? Let's just reach right in there and get her heart out of there. I mean, that's really only something you do to guys.
Yeah, she might have a point.
Yeah.
And are we to believe that she never had her heart ripped out in Missouri? That is probably why she went to Shanghai.
Right.
You know,
Right.
She got her heart broken, and she's like, "Forget
Established.
this."
That's right.
And if she left Missouri in the heart of the right during the heat of the Great Depression, she probably ate snakes too.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. You could easily be served snake in Missouri.
Okay.
Well, so right now in the background is the shaman conducting like a reconsecration of the altar.
Oh, maybe.
Is that what's going on?
We're just having his picture taken.
I think Shorty's setting up the greatest practical joke of his life.
What do you mean?
We'll see in a minute, but I think he's telling all these people, hey guys, watch in about 25 seconds. I'm going to do something really, really funny.
It's an awesome callback that you're not going to get because you weren't there.
Yeah,
it's going to be awesome.
But we'll see that when he does it, there's an entire village of people arranged in a perfect semicircle around him, watching and clapping.
And you know who shows up in that perfect circle?
Who?
Or well, they will later. Well, the girls. The girls come back.
Yeah.
They're available now. They were missing before.
Yeah. That's true.
Is Wheezy still here? Do you think she survived?
Oh, that's a good question. We didn't see
That's
her.
a good question.
Although there is a kid, if you look in like second 12 or so, there's kind of a downcast kid walking in the background on the right side of the screen behind Indy, and everybody else is arranged around Shorty, listening to him talk about his practical joke coming up.
Yeah.
And maybe that's Wheezy. Maybe they're like, God, stupid people don't care about me now that all these other fake kids
Exactly.
are back.
I'm not the only kid.
She's like over there kicking the dust.
Well, if you think about it, I mean, there would be a horrible irony if you're the lone child who escaped the Temple of Doom and you died, and then all the other enslaved kids lived. Like all you had to do was wait a weekend.
Well, of course, that guy made it back with chains on his and like in shackles and stuff, and all the other kids, they took a long time to get back to the village.
Yeah. She was a hero.
Can't really explain that.
Or heroine.
And well, maybe they aren't the same kids. I think we established that anyway. So when Willie says, so I didn't ask this, but when Willie says no more adventures, does she mean it?
I say no, and I'll tell you why when we get to the whip.
All right, we're at the whip.
Well, right before we get to the whip, I will say I think Kate Capshaw is making some really interesting acting choices here. Like she does these crazy big hand motions, and she seems like she's all over the place. And I think it's just because this is the first thing they filmed, and I don't think she has any idea what to do with this character yet.
Could be. Yeah.
This is the first thing they filmed?
Wow. You're absolutely right, Pete. You're absolutely right. I just watched it.
She does when she points to Missouri, and she does this kind of weird hand gesture, and then she runs up to that guy like, "Hey, can you give me a guide to Delhi?" And she does these weird pleading gestures, and it's completely unlike her kind of subtle. Well, I don't know if subtle's the right word, but like her actually very good acting in the rest of the movie.
Yeah,
it's a little large.
It goes along with just the randomness of this outburst.
Yeah,
which is this we need you to be angry so that you can not be angry a minute later.
Yeah,
right.
But then we get to back to Christy, your adventure question. This is sort of a troublesome scene, I think, when Indy whips her and she spins around and he starts pulling her in. But my first thought is has this all been an act, and she likes someone she likes a guy that kind of pushes her around, and this is what she's been waiting for him to do, and is that how she ended up with Lao Che?
Oh.
Well, how does that fit up with your intimacy question?
Oh, this is a different. I'm way off that already. We've moved on to that she wants someone to push her around. But then, because she liked Lao Che and he kind of pushed her around, and has she been waiting? Has she just been trying to provoke Indy into kind of turning into this guy? And then maybe that's why we don't see her again, because then maybe she ends up with Belloc, who definitely would be more like this. And that's why when we next see Belloc at the beginning of the next movie, he says, "Again, we see there's nothing you can possess which I cannot take away," a.k.a. Willie Scott.
No way.
No way.
Wow. No way.
That's my first. That's my call on where Willie went.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Well, I mean, if she has intimacy issues, then you could see where sort of all of her energy, I guess her sexual energy or intimacy might fall into the whip or that sort of S&M thing, because maybe that's something she can kind of hide behind, or, get behind or hide behind. Sometimes that comes with role playing. Chrisser, please shut your ears.
Can I shut my ears too?
Hey.
So I mean that that might be a safe place if she's kind of used to whips, and remember the whole palace slave talk.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
its own kind of
Yeah.
role playing. So that would go part and parcel with somebody who's afraid of intimacy. You just take yourself and you just pretend that you're someone else. And that might be why she is okay with this whip maneuver. And
Excuse me. Now, Tom and Pete, are we just going to listen politely here? Or?
Well, I think you weren't supposed to be listening at all.
Oh, that's right.
well, and just as an example, listen, the whip, does have this light, playful. It's like it's almost like a genteel, it's like a whoopsh. It doesn't have the low end bass that were normally the Ben Burt, low end bass when he whips and he
true.
flies across a chasm, or like when he whips, the scimitar out of the swordsman's hand and it flies away. It's a very nice, light kind of come hither whip sound.
The come hither flirtatious whip, which tells us that he's practiced that one quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I bet he practiced on a pillow.
Feathers everywhere around him.
Pretty much.
I do love her OU look, though. Like, after he does it, she just goes, oh, you. Like, that look she gives him is...
Yeah. I feel cheated that we didn't actually see the whipping. Like, we didn't see him actually whip her. We just, hear it, and then she's got it around her waist.
Because there's no way we could see that without incredible
He'd kill her.
violent imagery. Yeah.
Yeah. But, we should point out, too, this is I think Steven Spielberg's first idea. If you read that the story conference between him and Lucas and Lawrence Kasdan for Raiders, they're talking about he does everything with his whip. He'll grab a beer can with his whip. At some point he uses it to grab a girl around the waist and bring her over and stuff.
Yeah,
it's one of the first things he says.
Oh my gosh.
Well, it's interesting how much of this movie was just things they had in mind for Raiders. So this is
But you'll notice they're like, grab a beer with it. Oh, that's silly. But no, we'll keep the one with the woman in there. All right.
Well, we also see Indy tip his hat the same way he did to the snake alarm. And
a little bit.
Yeah, maybe he wanted a little of that snake action.
Yeah.
Because he kind of does, he kind of tips his hat to Willie like, hey, it's me. You want to kiss me?
I think we all have our snake alarms, don't we, Jerry? What's the snake alarm in your life that you tip your hat to?
Was anybody else relieved that they didn't actually get to kiss in this minute? I was relieved.
I was too distracted by the way they both flinch before the water
They
hits them.
pre-flinch.
Yeah.
Yes. It's very frustrating.
They do.
What about Shorty's reaction here? Is it actually finally funny this time? Or is Shorty just become a kind of a psychopath like Indy? Because he's sort of taken something he knows Willie is one of the things she hates most in life, and he's gathered an entire village of people to stand in a giant circle around her and humiliate her in this way, and then they're all going to clap and laugh.
Yeah, he's become that guy.
And he's going to say, very funny, very funny. Yeah, and just clap and clap and clap.
My goodness.
Well, see, this is a very happy moment for me because Shorty is reunited with his original best friend.
Yeah, I love that too.
Yeah, and that's,
Aw.
Oh, I never even thought of that.
Yeah.
It's probably the same guy, right?
Yeah,
Same
it
elephant.
is.
Yeah.
Aw.
Yeah. It's his it's the original best friend. And I'm just wondering, how do you think that conversation went? Hey, it's me! It's me! Shorty! And the elephant was like, "Wah!" Oh, that's water under the bridge, or dried wells under the bridge.
It's water over Willie.
Yeah. I when this moment happens and they get splashed and he's pointing and laughing and they look and they laugh and I'm like, any second now there's just going to be a freeze frame. Then there's going to be another freeze frame. Then it's going to be like an executive producer, whoever. Like, it's just like the end of Chips or something. It's like just going to be like this. Hey, everybody's happy. Everything's a little stupid. Thank you for coming.
Right.
But you know what I like? There's an undercurrent here. Like, if you pause it, right, it's second 49. Willie is not laughing when this first happens. She just has seething anger in her eyes. And she softens after she notices everybody else is laughing. And when this first happens, her reaction is not, "Oh, this is funny. This kid's playing a little joke on me." It's I'm going to kill this kid.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. But she flies all over the place, 180 degrees. I mean, that's
she's
just what she. Yeah, she's a mess. She's
a basket case.
She's a basket.
Guys, we're going to say she's earned it. Get off her, guys.
She has been through a lot, but she's also put us through a lot. So forget it.
Yeah. Ironically, you talked about this before, Tom, but ironically, Shorty closes his eyes when Indy and Willie kiss. And I'm like, it's fine. Indy's going to sit down, afterwards with Shorty and tell him all about Willie's tongue.
No.
His technique.
And they're like, "Oh, you missed it,
Roaming
kid.
hands.
I'm going to tell you something.
Yeah.
You know how amazing it is? You're like, if you're one of those
all right.
exhibitionists, we did it in front of the whole village. You know what I'm saying? It kind of
Okay.
gives you this extra turbo boost."
I'm thinking he should cover his eyes because if he is trying to find out about like what happens when a boy likes a girl and stuff, like he's going to get completely berserker ideas from watching these two. Like they're
Oh, absolutely.
just get mad at each other for no reason, and they're kissing and they're punching and they're
Start off with physical violence.
I'm pretty sure there's some 1930s cultural norms broken here in the village.
Yeah, maybe.
Pretty sure.
That's true.
to the movie.
He's gonna, stab a girl and be like, "No, come on.
I was flirting.
I was flirting." It worked for Indy. Speaking of, wait a minute. Something's coming through here.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, yeah?
It's just in from the oldest Billy Goat Gruff, Mimi Porter. Would that whip move work today? And she is a lawyer. I think she's
Keeping it real.
Yeah, I think there's going to be some sort of, I don't know, some possible assault
I'm not even sure it
charge.
worked then. Did it work in 1983?
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's good. It worked in 1983, but how would we feel about if we saw it today?
We did just see it today.
Oh, yeah. How was it?
A little corny.
Yeah.
Hacky.
I love this, Tom. You're really, this is
Tom
this is
is-
fascinating.
I can't
Tom's
wait.
he's done.
I can't wait for this movie to be done. But I'm having fun. I'm just, I want this movie to be a little better. That's all. I'm
Maybe in the next
protesting my
minute.
country because I love my country. I'm angry at this movie because I love it and I want it to be better.
So wait. Now what you were all, smiles and cherubums up until when? What was the scene that cracked you?
Honestly, it's like I noticed as I was taking notes for specific, like this week and like the very end of last week, like there were a lot of F-bombs in my notes. Like what is going on? What the Wilhelm is happening in this movie? I literally don't understand what's happening. I think it started with Molaram and Indy fighting over the stones.
Okay.
And Indy chanting and the stones start glowing and I'm like I'm sitting in the theater. I don't know what's happening, but I guess there's supposed to be like a special effecty thing at the end as part of the climax. Okay. That kind of a thing. And then it's like, he's crawling up the thing, but they don't go peer over to see if he's alive. And then they're here and they're wearing the same clothes as, 7 weeks ago and all this. And they get there before the kids and the place is already green. Even though it's just, it's like they were in a hurry to get done. They're like, okay, let's wrap this thing up. Everything's good.
To me, that's a lot of the stuff that kind of gives it a little bit of weird charm, because this is a play on 1930s serials, and those are roller coaster rides where every few minutes you're like, will our hero survive? What's in store for him next? Is there going to be an alligator in the form of water chasing him over a lava mine? What could get worse than that? Oh, he comes off a cliff and a bridge fails and there's some crocodiles, and then you keep not knowing what's going to happen and all kinds of mishaps, and he gets out of it each way in a more outrageous way than the next, and there's some supernatural stuff, and I think it fits the genre of what they're doing.
You could be describing Raiders of the Lost Ark right now, in which case I would agree with you completely. That's exactly Raiders of the Lost Ark, and it's perfect.
I see the
it's
point there,
awesome.
yeah.
It's airtight. And here it's just goofy.
But you know what, Tom? You like Goofy sometimes.
Yeah.
I love Goofy. Goofy's fantastic, but I don't want it to be like accidentally. They're not trying to be goofy in this movie.
Well,
it's
that's
just
a
coming
difference.
across as very lazy
Okay.
and kind of.
I'm not sure I agree with that, but I think it's
We
interesting.
should do a podcast about it.
Yeah, we should. I do think it's interesting though that the same things are kind of sending us in different directions.
Yeah, that's true.
You were very persuasive to each other, obviously.
Well, we talked about it being lazy. Chris, or do you want to weigh in? Do you think that this is lazy? Or do you think they get away with the old timiness?
Well, I wanted to ask why we had to have old timiness, but no, I think it's lazy because they actually took out just enough stuff so that I couldn't really follow along. And if there's one thing I can't stand, it's not being able to follow along a stupid movie. So I can't really, don't make me think about it, people. So
I picture you sitting in the movie theater, Christy. What's he talking about here?
hey,
What's that stone for?
He had glasses before.
oh, maybe you saw me in the theater when I watched Memento. What's going on now? What just happened?
He was just talking to that guy. Why is he acting like that?
What's interesting, though, is, Tom, I think we kind of all agreed that one of the best minutes of the movie was that whole bridge scene. I mean, when he's on the bridge and he pulls out the machete, it's like the best minute in the movie. And then what's fascinating, it's 1 minute later, 2 minutes later, and you've crashed.
That's life.
Eternity.
It turns on a dime sometimes.
Yeah, yeah.
But you know what's fun? A roller coaster. And you know why? It's because you're going at breakneck speeds and everything's an adventure and you don't know what's coming next and it's exhilarating.
Yeah, but Raiders was a smart, well thought out adventure like that.
But I'm going to say what's not fun is a roller coaster that you do at 2 miles an hour the entire way.
That's very true. That's exactly true.
And I think this
right.
movie is amazing and wonderful if you watch it the way it was meant to be watched. I agree that it maybe doesn't stand up to scrutiny as well as Raiders does, but I don't think that makes it, at least in my mind, a bad movie. In fact,
No.
And we'll talk about these in the next few minutes, but I started out disliking this movie and ended up loving it. So I think it's
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
weird.
I said angrily, I think last week, that this doesn't stand up to scrutiny. But I mean, it's just a fact. It doesn't, but that doesn't make it. You're not supposed to watch it this way. Whose
Right.
idea was it? Stupid Star Wars many you guys. Why do you infect us all with this disease?
You bastards. You can have it back. What's so charming about you, Pete, is that your favorite person in the movie is Short Round, clearly.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
and
yeah.
you just want to live your life like Shorty lives his life. And he's so filled with joy. And even when stuff is stupid, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah. And that's why you're so lovable.
That does make you lovable, Pete.
Thank you,
It
Jerry.
does.
Yeah, you refuse to look at the lava pit to the left or the crocodiles to the right. You're just like, this is fine.
You say shortcut, and I'm like, yes, Jerry.
It's true. All right.
Well, all right. I think that'll do it for 113. Thank you all for being here and weighing in on stuff. Jerry, where can people go if they are not quite done weighing in on stuff and they've got more to say about how brilliant or offensive any of us is being right now?
Well, they should come to the Indiana Jones Minute Listeners Crusade, which is our Facebook page, where there's all sorts of wonderful things posted, deleted scenes, and there's polls, and you can leave all sorts of comments about who's getting pulled into where in the quicksand, and does anybody deserve another branch to pull them out? Or is it just tug away, you're coming down? Listen, there's only a couple of minutes left, Tommy.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's going to be all right.
So, yeah. And Pete, yay, there's only a couple minutes left.
I just gotta say.
We're all going to be okay.
Yeah.
And come witness us being okay for minute 114 next time here on the Indiana Jones Minute.
Very funny. Very funny.
Very funny. Grossman, why'd you spray me with an elephant?